Good morning, my dear friend. As the first light of dawn brushes the horizon, and the air carries the gentle coolness of a world just waking, there is something sacred in this hour. The streets are quiet. The noise of the day has not yet risen, and the sky glows with colors that speak of promise. This is a moment when the soul can breathe freely, when time seems to pause long enough for us to hear a deeper voice. Morning has always been more than just the start of another day. It is an invitation to begin again, to step forward with hope, to allow gratitude to rise within us like the sun itself. Perhaps you have woken today with a heavy heart. Maybe your night was restless, filled with thoughts you could not silence. Imagine a man sitting at his kitchen table long before the city stirs. His hands hold a photograph of someone he has lost, and the silence of the house echoes with absence. Or think of the woman who checks her phone again and again, hoping for a call from a doctor with good news, her chest tight with fear of what tomorrow may bring. These are not distant stories. They are real experiences that many of us share in our own hidden ways. Pain, uncertainty, and loss can greet us as faithfully as the sunrise. And yet, even in these fragile moments, the day breaks. Light pierces the dark, not because our problems have vanished, but because a greater presence speaks through the morning air. You are not alone. It is into this space that we are invited to turn our hearts. The struggles that weigh on you are not meant to be carried in silence. They can become prayers. They can be lifted from your hands and placed into the hands of the one who sees beyond every shadow. Faith does not promise us a life without storms, but it does anchor us when the waves rise. Prayer does not erase grief or erase fear, but it transforms the way we walk through them. It steadies our breath. It clears our vision. It reminds us that what feels like an ending may, in God's design, be the doorway to a new beginning. This morning, you are invited into a journey, not a journey of empty words or lofty rituals, but a living conversation with the Creator, who knows you more deeply than you know yourself. Each word of gratitude, each cry for help, each whisper of surrender becomes part of that conversation. As the world outside awakens, so too can your soul awaken to strength, to peace, and to a joy that does not depend on circumstances. So pause for a moment. Feel the stillness of this dawn. Allow your heart to loosen its grip on yesterday's pain and tomorrow's worries. Let your breath slow and your spirit soften. In this quiet hour, faith is not distant. It is here, waiting for you to notice. The invitation is simple and profound. Open your heart. Speak honestly. Listen deeply, and walk with God into the gift of this new day. Dear Heavenly Father, this morning I open my eyes, and the world feels both quiet and heavy. The sky outside is still painted with the fragile colors of dawn. Yet inside me there is a weight I cannot ignore. I come to you without polished words, without strength to pretend, simply bringing the truth of who I am in this very moment. I confess that too often I wake and rush into the demands of the day, forgetting that every breath I draw is already a gift. I forget that the rhythm of my heartbeat is not mine to command, but yours to sustain. And so before the noise of life rises around me, I stop here to name my need for you. I need you in my wandering thoughts that so easily drift to worry. I need you in my restless heart that seeks answers, cannot find on my own. I need you in the quiet corners of my soul where loneliness whispers and fear lingers. I need you in the burdens I carry from yesterday and in the questions that wait for me today. I cannot deny this hunger within me, the thirst for something greater than my own plans, the longing to be held by a love that does not fail. As the first light spreads across the horizon, I recognize how fragile I am and yet how steady you remain. I think of the way darkness fades, not because it chooses to leave, but because light is stronger. In the same way, my weakness does not disqualify me from your presence. It only reminds me how much I depend on you. Like a child reaching out for a parent's hand, I reach toward you, uncertain of the path, but trusting that your touch is enough to guide me. Teach me to notice this morning. Teach me to see what I so often overlook. The warmth of the blanket that covered me through the night, the air that fills my lungs, the roof that shields me from the chill, all of these are signs of your care. Yet my heart races past them as though they were owed to me. Slow me down. Father, let gratitude be the first movement of my soul. Let thanksgiving be the breath that steadies me before I even speak of my worries. I admit that sometimes gratitude feels difficult. My mind argues that there is too much missing, too many wounds unhealed, too many prayers that seem unanswered. And still, in this dawn hour, I sense you inviting me to shift my gaze. What if I looked at a life not as a tally of what I lack, but as a canvas already brushed with strokes of your goodness? What if I dared to say thank you before I see the outcome, trusting that you are already working beyond my view? So I choose, however small my faith may be, to thank you for this new day. I thank you for the chance to begin again. I thank you for the gift of being alive, for the hope that the sunrise represents, for the quiet reminder that you have not forgotten me. Even in my frailty, I whisper gratitude, believing it matters to you. And as I thank you, I feel the edges of my fear soften. The shadows within me grow thinner. The silence inside become a little less lonely. Yet I will not hide my struggles from you. My thoughts still swirl with questions I cannot answer. My heart still carries aches I do not know how to mend. My future still looks uncertain, and my strength feels limited. But instead of burying these truths, I lay them before you, trusting that honesty is the beginning of healing. You do not ask me to bring perfect words. You ask me to bring myself. And so I come as I am, messy, tired, hopeful, and broken all at once. Hold me in this hour. Father, let me sense your nearness as surely as I sense the morning light touching the earth. Let me trust that just as the day unfolds one moment at a time, so too will your grace meet me step by step. Help me to release my tight grip on control, to loosen my anxious striving, and to remember that my greatest need is not to fix everything, but to be with you. I long for my life today to flow out of this meeting with you. I long for my choices, my conversations, my thoughts, and even my smallest tasks to carry the fragrance of gratitude. I long for my heart to remain awake, noticing the subtle gifts you scatter across the hours. I long for courage to face what comes, not with clenched fists, but with open hands. Father, the morning has only begun, but already I choose to trust that you are here. Already I choose to believe that your presence is enough. Already I choose to let gratitude rise, the sun that climbs the sky. This is my prayer at the threshold of the day. Father, the words I spoke earlier still echo within me, and as I linger here in the stillness, I sense that silence itself can become a sacred companion. I do not want to rush away from what has begun to stir in my heart. I know how quickly the noise of the day will rise the voices, the demands, the distractions that clamor for attention. But in this early hour I long to remain anchored in your presence. I long for the gift of quiet to form the foundation of all that will follow. The hush of morning surrounds me, and I begin to realize how rare such quiet truly is. Even when my environment is calm, my mind is often loud, filling the room with endless lists and restless planning. Yet in this moment, as I breathe deeply and focus on you, I hear something different. I hear the steady rhythm of life itself, subtle reminders that you are near, the faint chirp of a waking bird, the distant hum of a world beginning to stir. These become reminders that creation itself joins me in greeting you, and in that awareness, my spirit softens. Teach me to treasure this stillness. Teach me to let the quiet unclench my soul. I no longer need to prove my worth or perform before you. I do not need to fight for attention or strive for perfection. I am simply here, resting in the truth that you are God and that I am yours. As I quiet my racing thoughts, I imagine myself standing beside a calm lake just as the sun begins to rise, its surface unbroken, its reflection clear. That water mirrors the posture I long to hold within. Unhurried, undisturbed, open to receive. There is a temptation in me to fill silence with words, even words addressed to you. Yet I recognize that silence is not absence. It is invitation. In the quiet, I begin to notice what is usually hidden beneath the surface. My fears rise up, not to overwhelm me, but to be surrendered to you. My longings appear, not to shame me, but to be offered back to you. In the quiet, I learn that you are not only in the thunder of answered prayers, but also in the whisper that calms me before the answer comes. Lord, as the minutes stretch gently before me, I realize how easily I forget this practice. How many mornings have I rushed from bed to task, never pausing to open the ears of my heart? How often have I sought your blessing without first seeking your voice? Forgive me for choosing business over intimacy. Forgive me for drowning in noise when you were waiting to meet me in the stillness. And thank you for the patience that welcomes me back, again and again, no matter how many times I wander. I want this quiet to shape the way I listen today. I want to carry an inner stillness even when my outer world grows chaotic. I want to respond with calm when provoked, with gentleness when pressed, with clarity when confusion swirls around me. Let this morning's silence be more than a passing pause. Let it become the seed of a deeper awareness that grows throughout the day. God, I admit that waiting in silence feels uncomfortable. My thoughts resist it, my hands itch to move, my mind seeks distraction. But even in my discomfort, I sense that you are teaching me. You are teaching me to slow down, to resist the urge to solve everything at once. to trust that your presence is enough even when no words are spoken. You are teaching me to rest in the knowledge that you already know my needs before I voice them, and so I let silence speak on my behalf. I let my open posture, my steady breathing, my attentive heart become prayer. This stillness is not empty. It is full of possibility. It is full of your nearness. In the quiet, I begin to realize that I do not have to force gratitude. It arises naturally, like a flower unfolding in sunlight. Gratitude for the calm that holds me, for the pause that interrupts my rushing, for the assurance that I am not abandoned. Gratitude that in the stillness I can hear the gentle truth. You are here, and that is enough. Father, I ask for the grace to return to this quiet, even when the day grows noisy. Let me remember that I can always step into this space again, whether in a crowded room or a silent corner. Let me remember that silence is a door into your presence, not a void to fear. Let me remember that quiet is not weakness but strength, for it allows me to hear what truly matters. As I rest in this moment, I begin to sense how much I need this rhythm. Silence steadies me. Silence clears my vision. Silence makes room for hope. And so I choose to honor this quiet before noise, trusting that it will echo through all that awaits me today. Lord, the stillness that has settled in me begins to open a deeper invitation, one I cannot ignore. Quiet has shown me what lies beneath the surface, and now I feel the tug to release what I hold too tightly. It is not enough simply to notice my burdens. I am called to place them into your hands. In this hour, I sense that surrender is not weakness, but the only path to freedom. As I breathe, I feel the rhythm of letting go and receiving. With every exhale, I release what was never mine to carry alone. And with every inhale, I welcome the strength that comes only from you. I think of how often I cling to control, how I write and rewrite the script of my days, as if outcomes depend entirely on my effort. Yet the more I clutch at certainty, the less peace I find. Control promises safety but delivers exhaustion. Only when I loosen my grip do I discover that you were already holding me. The breath that fills my lungs is not earned by my striving. It is given in the same way. The grace that sustains me is not achieved, but received. God. I remember moments when surrender felt impossible, when fear convinced me that if I let go, everything would fall apart. But looking back, I see that those very moments became turning points. When I stopped forcing my way, you created a better path. When I ceased struggling against the tide, you carried me farther than I could have walked on my own. These memories remind me that surrender is not the end of my story, the beginning of yours written through me. So here in the softness of morning, I release what I cannot control. I let go of the outcome of conversations waiting for me. I let go of the anxieties about provision and tomorrow's needs. I let go of the desire to manage how others see me. I place into your hands the uncertainties that wake me in the night. I name them one by one, and with each name I breathe them out, trusting that you are strong enough to hold them all. Father, I confess that I return to these burdens even after releasing them. I confess that surrender must be repeated because my heart so easily reclaims what it laid down. Teach me to surrender not once but continually, like the rhythm of my breathing. Teach me to trust that even if I stumble back into fear, I can release it again, and again, and again. Without shame, teach me that surrender is not failure, but faith in motion. As I exhale, I imagine placing my worries into an open sky, watching them drift away beyond my reach. As I inhale, I picture your spirit filling me with calm, with courage, with clarity. The exchange is gentle yet powerful. My weakness for your strength, my confusion for your wisdom, my emptiness for your fullness. This breathing prayer becomes a living reminder that I am not alone. I thank you for being patient with me, for not demanding perfection in the way I surrender. You accept the trembling hands, the hesitant prayers, the faltering trust, and still you draw near. You see my attempt, however fragile, and you honor it with your presence. The truth brings relief to my soul. It tells me that surrender is not a test to pass, but a relationship to trust. God, I want this surrender to shape how I walk today. When unexpected interruptions come, help me release my frustration quickly. When worry rises like a shadow, help me breathe it out before it hardens into fear. When pride tempts me to prove myself, help me lay down my need for recognition. When I feel powerless, remind me that power has never been the goal your presence has. Even as I speak these words, I feel the subtle resistance in me, the part that wants to hold on. Yet I choose to believe that surrender is worth the risk. For what I release to you is never lost. It is transformed. What I entrust to you is never wasted. It is woven into something greater. And what I lay down before you becomes the space where gratitude can rise. Lord, take the pieces I cannot mend. Take the plans I cannot perfect. Take the fears I cannot silence. And in exchange, give me yourself. That is the only trade that matters, the only treasure that endures. This morning I surrender, not because I am strong, but because I am loved. Not because I am certain, but because I trust that you are. And so I breathe again, steady and open. Letting go. Receiving. Letting go. Receiving. This is how I will walk into the day with empty hands that are ready to be filled, with a heart that has learned to yield, with a spirit that knows freedom is found in surrender. Father, after breathing out what I cannot hold and receiving what only you can give, I realize there is more within me that longs to be uncovered. Surrender opens the door, but confession is the step that brings me inside. I cannot truly release what weighs me down unless I also name it honestly before you. And so I approach this quiet moment as if I am being invited to a table, a place where truth is welcomed without fear. Here at this table, there is no need for masks, no need for rehearsed words, only the courage to speak what already exists in my heart. Lord, I bring before you the thoughts I have tried to hide, the words spoken in haste, the choices that wounded others and left me uneasy even in silence. I admit the pride that slipped into my actions when I wanted recognition. I confess the sharpness in my tone when patience wore thin. I acknowledge the envy that crept into my heart when I compared myself with someone else. These are not small matters to brush aside. They are shadows that dim the light of gratitude, barriers that keep me from resting fully in your presence. Yet even as I confess, I remember that this table is not set for judgment, but for reconciliation. It is a place where I am invited not to be condemned, but to be restored. The act of speaking truth is itself an act of trust. For I believe you meet honesty with mercy. You do not turn away from my brokenness. You lean closer. You do not silence me with anger. You listen with compassion. And in this gentle exchange, I discover that confession is not a wound that bleeds endlessly, but a healing cut that allows infection to leave. God, I am tired of carrying hidden guilt. It disguises itself as strength, but it weakens me. It whispers that I should keep quiet. That to reveal my faults would be to lose your love. But deep down I know that is a lie. Your love does not shrink when I confess. It becomes more visible, like sunlight flooding a darkened room. Your forgiveness changes the atmosphere inside me. The heaviness begins to lift, the air feels clearer, and gratitude returns to its rightful place in my soul. I do not want to live with pretense. I do not want to cover up mistakes with excuses. Teach me to bring my failures quickly to you, not as a last resort, but as a first response. Teach me to see confession not as humiliation, but as a doorway to peace. Teach me to trust that you would rather have my flowed honesty than my polished performance. As I picture this table in my heart, I imagine you sitting across from me, patient and steady, waiting for me to speak. I pour out what I can no longer carry alone. I admit the resentment I have harbored. I confess the indifference I have shown to someone in need. I acknowledge the moments when I forgot to lean on you and trusted only myself. One by one, I place these things on the table, not to wallow in shame, but to hand them over. And I notice something remarkable. You do not push them back toward me. You take them. You lift them away. You cover them with grace. Lord, let this practice shape me. Let confession soften the hard places within me. Let it teach me humility without crushing me, honesty without despair, responsibility without hopelessness. Let it guide me into reconciliation with those I have wronged, moving me to seek forgiveness and to extend it in return. Let this rhythm of confession become part of my daily breath, as natural as sunrise, as necessary as water. Father, in this act of truth-telling I feel a release. I feel the tightness around my heart begin to loosen. Gratitude rises once more, not because I have earned it, but because I have been forgiven. I realize that every confession, no matter how small, clears space for joy to dwell again. It clears space for me to walk lighter, freer, and more aware of your presence. So I remain here for a moment longer at this table, grateful that you have made room for me. Grateful that nothing I confess is too heavy for you to bear. Grateful that my story is not defined by failure, but by the mercy that meets it. I step away from this table not empty but restored, not ashamed but renewed, carrying with me the quiet assurance that I am known fully and loved completely. Lord, leaving the table where I spoke honestly of my faults, I feel drawn now to the place where forgiveness flows. Confession opened my heart, but it is your mercy that restores it. I picture myself walking toward a well, its water deep and unending, its surface reflecting light that does not fade. I come thirsty, my soul dry from carrying guilt, my spirit weary from shadows. And here, at this well, I find the refreshment I cannot produce for myself. Your mercy is not a small stream that dries in summer heat. It is a vast, living source that never runs out. Father, I lower the bucket into this well and hear it strike the water below. That sound alone brings relief, for it reminds me that I am not abandoned. When I lift the bucket and drink, the coolness flows through me, reaching every hidden corner where shame once lived. The taste is sweet, not because I deserve it, but because you have chosen to give it freely. Every drop carries the promise that my past does not define me. Every sip tells me that forgiveness is more real than failure, that grace is stronger than regret. I think of how many times I have returned to this well, and still it has never been empty. My weakness may repeat itself, my mistakes may echo, but your mercy remains. It is not diminished by my need. It is magnified in meeting it. The more I draw, the more abundant it becomes. This realization softens me. I do not have to approach timidly, as though I am an unwelcome guest. I am invited here, expected even, for you delight in giving what heals. God, as I drink deeply of this mercy, I feel the burdens fall from my shoulders. The memory of what I confessed no longer crushes me, becomes part of the testimony of your compassion. The accusations that once filled my thoughts lose their power in the face of your voice, declaring me forgiven. My heart, which felt heavy, begins to rise like a balloon released into open air. I discover joy in places where sorrow used to dwell, and strength where weakness once reigned. I thank you for the way mercy does not simply erase guilt, but transforms it into gratitude. I thank you for the way it takes my brokenness and turns it into a reminder of your kindness. I thank you for the way it clears my vision, so I can see myself not as a failure, but as a beloved child. This is the miracle of drinking from your well. Once poisoned me with despair is now washed away, leaving only the sweetness of freedom. Lord, let this mercy shape how I live today. Let it remind me to extend grace to others just as freely as it has been given to me. Let it keep me from harshness, from judgment, from holding on to grudges. When I see someone falter, remind me of the countless times I have been lifted by your hand. When I encounter someone burdened by shame, help me point them to the same well that has renewed me. As I linger here, I realize mercy is not only for the past, but also for the present. It is not only about what I have done, but about who I am becoming. Your mercy equips me to face today with courage. It tells me that even if I stumble again, I will not be cast aside. It tells me that your compassion will meet me at every turn, steadying me, restoring me, renewing me. This truth frees me to walk forward without fear. Father, I place myself fully into this flow of grace. I ask you to wash through every place in me that still resists, every hidden wound that still aches, every scar that still whispers lies. Let your mercy seep into those spaces and bring healing where nothing else could. Let it remind me that I am more than my mistakes, more than my failures, more than my doubts. I am yours, covered and sustained by love that cannot be exhausted. And so I draw again from this well, not with hesitation, but with trust. I draw not only for myself, but for those I love. Holding them in my heart as I lift the bucket, I ask that they too may taste this refreshment. that they may know the freedom of being forgiven, the joy of being restored. May they see through my life a reflection of the mercy that has changed me. Lord, as the morning continues and the world awakens in full, I carry with me the assurance that I have drunk from your well. My soul feels lighter, my spirit steadier, my heart more alive. Gratitude rises like clear water, flowing over the edges, spilling into every part of my day. And I know that no matter what waits ahead, I can return here again and again, for your mercy never runs dry. Father, having drunk deeply from the well of mercy, I feel a quiet joy beginning to flicker within me. Mercy washes away the heaviness of guilt, and now gratitude rises like sparks catching fire. It is not a gratitude that waits for extraordinary miracles, but one that looks closely at the ordinary and discovers wonder hidden there. I sense you inviting me to practice seeing again, to pay attention to the overlooked, to count what is already present. Lord, I start with this very moment. The breath filling my lungs feels like a soft reminder of your sustaining hand. The steadiness of my heartbeat, the gentle warmth that wraps around me, the light entering through the window, these are small gifts, yet they carry immense meaning. I whisper thanks for them not because they are spectacular, because they are real. Gratitude does not demand spectacle. It delights in presence. As I open my eyes to the day, I see how easily I have rushed past blessings. A smile from a stranger on the street, the sound of laughter echoing nearby, the aroma of a simple meal, the comfort of a familiar voice. Each of these is a gift waiting to be named. And when I name them, something shifts in me. My perspective changes. Instead of focusing on what is missing, I begin to notice what has been here all along. Gratitude acts like a lantern in a dark room, revealing beauty that had always been present but unseen. God, I ask you to train my heart in this practice. Let gratitude become more than a passing thought. Let it become a posture, a lens through which I see the world. Teach me to pause often enough to notice the small sparks that brighten my path. Even when circumstances weigh heavy, even when the road is uncertain, let me not lose the ability to count gifts. For it is in the counting that hope multiplies. I thank you for the texture of the morning air, for the rhythm of voices that will fill my day, for the memories of those who have shaped me, for the kindnesses I have received without even asking. I thank you for the unseen ways you protect me, for the provisions that arrive quietly, for the opportunities that bloom when I least expect them. Each gift, whether visible or hidden, tells me that I am not forgotten. Lord, I also want to notice the gifts that come wrapped in challenge, the delay that forces me to slow down, the disappointment that refines my desire, the obstacle that teaches resilience. These too can become sparks of gratitude when I view them through your wisdom. Though they may not feel pleasant in the moment, they remind me that you are shaping me, that nothing is wasted, that even in difficulty, grace is present. Father, as I count these gifts, I feel a warmth spreading through me. Gratitude does not erase pain, but it changes its weight. It does not deny hardship, but it steadies me to endure it. Gratitude makes room for joy to coexist with sorrow, for hope to walk beside uncertainty, for peace to accompany struggle. It is a gentle strength, a flame that keeps burning even when the wind rises. Help me carry this practice beyond this morning. Let me keep watch for sparks throughout the hours ahead. Let me notice the kindness in a word, the beauty in a simple detail, the comfort in a routine I often take for granted. Let me speak thankfulness aloud, not only in prayer, but also in the way I treat others. Let my gratitude encourage, soften, and uplift those who cross my path. God, I know that gratitude is contagious. When I live with a thankful spirit, it affects the atmosphere around me. It inspires others to notice their own gifts, to find reasons for hope, to believe that joy is possible even here. Even now, I want my life to shine with that kind of quiet testimony, not loud or forced, but authentic and steady. So I ask for eyes to see what is easily missed. I ask for a heart that does not grow numb to everyday wonders. I ask for words that are quick to give thanks, even in small things. And as I continue this journey, may gratitude become the song beneath every other word I speak. Father, the sparks are already here, flickering gently in the ordinary. Teach me to tend them, to fan them into flame, to let them light my path. Teach me to remember that every small gift carries within it a sign of your love, and as I keep counting, may my soul grow brighter with joy, steadier with hope, and freer with peace. God, as I pause after naming the many small gifts around me, I realize there are others I have not dared to count. They are not wrapped in comfort or delight, but in challenge and loss. They are the gifts that do not look like gifts at first, yet deep within, I know they hold their own kind of mercy. Gratitude has taught me to see what is obvious, and now you invite me to see what is hidden. You invite me to look at the darker places of my story with different eyes, to trust that even there, blessing was at work. Father, I remember moments when life broke apart in ways I did not understand. There were closed doors that left me standing outside in the cold, unanswered questions that kept me awake, seasons of disappointment that seemed endless. At the time, I thought only of loss. I thought only of what had been taken from me. But with the distance of time, I see a pattern I could not see then. I see how those endings made space for beginnings. I see how those delays protected me from paths that were not meant for me. I see how what felt like rejection was actually redirection. And for that, I whisper thanks, even with tears. Lord, it is not easy to give thanks for what hurts. My natural instinct is to resist, to fight against pain, to wish it away. But you are teaching me that pain can also be a teacher, that struggle can shape me in ways comfort never could. You are showing me that what looks like loss is often the soil where new life grows. Just as seeds must be buried before they bloom, so too must some of my hopes fall into the ground before they can rise in a truer form. I think of the moments when I begged you for a specific answer, only to receive silence. I thought silence meant absence. But now I see it was guidance. You were steering me toward something better, something I could not imagine. The waiting stretched me, the emptiness humbled me, and the eventual unfolding revealed your hand. Gratitude in hindsight becomes gratitude in faith, trusting that the same unseen good is being worked out even now. Father, help me not only to thank you after I see the outcome, but to trust you in the middle, when the picture is unclear and the path feels steep. Help me to anchor my heart in the truth that you weave all things together for good, even when the threads appear tangled. Teach me to say thank you not only for the sunrise, but also for the clouds that prepare the rain. Not only for the healing, but also for the season of weakness that makes healing precious. God, I confess that I often label experiences too quickly. I call something failure when it may be formation. I call something wasted when it may be wisdom. I call something a curse when it may be covering. Forgive me for rushing to judgment, for assuming I know the end of the story when I have only seen one chapter. Give me patience to wait for your perspective, courage to believe that what looks like ruin may one day reveal redemption. As I reflect, I remember how gratitude for hidden blessings changes not only how I see the past, but also how I live in the present. It gives me resilience when the road feels rough. It gives me trust when doors close unexpectedly. It gives me hope that even in the valley, there is a stream running unseen beneath the ground. And so I lift my heart to you, asking for vision to notice the disguised mercies of today. Father, I place before you the disappointments I still carry, the unanswered prayers that linger in my mind, the scars that remind me of what once was. I ask you to redeem them, to show me glimpses of the hidden good already unfolding. I ask you to turn what feels like emptiness into the soil of future joy. And I thank you now, in advance, believing that nothing is wasted in your hands. Lord, let this trust steady me through the challenges ahead. Let me walk with eyes open to the possibility that even this difficulty holds a blessing I cannot yet see. Let me remember that providence is not about everything being easy, but about everything being purposeful. And let me carry this truth not only for myself, but also for others, so that when I see someone weighed down by loss, I can remind them gently that there may be light hidden within the shadows. And so, with gratitude that stretches beyond what is visible, I choose to trust you with the mysteries of my story. I choose to believe that blessing wears many faces, some bright and some hidden, but all shaped by your love. Father, as I reflect on the blessings that hide within hardship, I recognize how easily my heart still trembles when uncertainty surrounds me. Trusting that you are weaving good from difficulty is a truth I cling to, yet there are mornings when worry rises before gratitude has time to speak. Anxiety arrives like a restless wind, shaking my thoughts, scattering my peace, and convincing me that the ground beneath me is fragile. In these moments, I need something steady, something stronger than my emotions, something that can hold me fast when fear pulls hard. I need the anchor of your presence. Lord, I bring to you the anxious thoughts that swirl in me even now. They are not distant, they press close. The questions about tomorrow, the weight of decisions I cannot predict, the fragile edges of health, the concerns for those I love, all of them press on my chest and quicken my breathing. I confess that I try to control them, rehearsing solutions, imagining outcomes. Yet the more I rehearse, the heavier they grow. I cannot quiet them by my own effort, but I can place them before you, naming them one by one, not to magnify them, but to entrust them. God, When I think of an anchor sinking deep into the ocean floor, I imagine what it means to be held steady. The waves may crash and the vessel may rock, but the anchor keeps it from drifting into ruin. That is what I long for in these restless hours, not the removal of every wave, but the assurance that I will not be lost to them. I ask you to be that anchor, to root me in your unshakable love, to steady me with peace that does not depend on circumstances. I remember promises that speak directly to this need. I remember that you invite me not to be consumed by anxiety, but to bring everything to you with thanksgiving, and that in doing so I will know peace beyond comprehension. I hold on to that promise now. I remind myself that gratitude is not naive. It is warfare against despair. Every time I say thank you, I am choosing to believe that you are greater than the storm that frightens me. Father, I thank you even here, in the middle of what unsettles me. I thank you not because the situation is easy, but because you are present. I thank you not because I see the outcome, but because I know you already stand in it. Gratitude loosens the grip of fear, not by denying reality, but by opening me to a larger truth, that I am held by a hand stronger than any uncertainty. As I sit with these anxious thoughts, I feel you inviting me to breathe slowly, to let each breath remind me of your nearness. With each inhale, I welcome your peace. With each exhale, I release the tension that binds me. The rhythm of this prayer is like the rhythm of the waves, unceasing. Yet under them all the anchor holds. I do not have to solve everything in this moment. I do not have to carry the weight alone. I only have to rest in the assurance that you are here. Lord, I ask for courage to face what unsettles me today. Give me the wisdom to act where I can, the humility to release what is beyond my reach, and the faith to believe that even in my weakness, I am not abandoned. When panic whispers that I am alone, let your spirit remind me that I am not. When dread tries to choke out joy, let gratitude rise like a song within me. When fear says the storm will destroy me, let your word remind me that you are in the boat. And because you are here, I will not sink. God, let this anchor steady not only my heart, but also my relationships. When I am anxious, I can become sharp, impatient, withdrawn. But when I am rooted in your peace, I can extend calm to others, even when I do not have answers. Let my steadiness become a shelter for those who feel tossed about by their own storms. Let the quiet of your presence in me be an encouragement to those who feel overwhelmed. Father, I choose now to place my trust in you once more. I choose to believe that what lies ahead is not stronger than your hand. I choose to believe that my anxious thoughts do not define me. Your promises do. I choose to believe that even when the waters rise, the anchor holds. And as I make this choice, I feel gratitude stir again, not for an escape from difficulty, but for the assurance that you will not let me go. So here I remain, anchored in your love, steady in the middle of shifting tides. Grateful that I belong to you, Lord. After resting in the anchor that steadies me when waves of anxiety rise, I feel you drawing me further into safety. It is not only about surviving storms, but also about dwelling in a place where fear cannot rule. I imagine stepping into a fortress, its walls strong and unshakable, its gates open to welcome me. This fortress is not built of stone, but of your presence, a refuge where peace surrounds me like high walls and protects me from the arrows of worry. Father, I enter this space in prayer and notice how the atmosphere changes. The noise of fear outside still echoes, but it cannot penetrate the walls of your peace. My heart, which moments ago trembled, begins to rest. My mind, which spun in circles, begins to slow. This is not escape. It is assurance. It is the confidence that nothing can reach me without first passing through your love. I find relief in this truth. I am not exposed to the chaos of the world. I am covered by the strength of your care. God, I recall times when I felt utterly vulnerable, as though every wind would knock me down. Yet even then, unseen by me, your fortress stood. You sheltered me when I did not even recognize the protection. How many dangers have I been spared without knowing? How many moments of harm were turned aside because you placed a shield around me? Gratitude wells up in me as I think of the countless ways your peace has guarded my life, visible and invisible. Here within these walls, I can breathe differently. The weight pressing on my chest eases. I realize that peace is not simply the absence of conflict, but the presence of confidence in you. It is not pretending that all is well, but resting in the truth that you hold all things. It is the calm that comes not from controlling circumstances, but from trusting that I am held within a fortress stronger than any threat. Father, I ask that this peace would guard every part of me today, my thoughts, my emotions, my decisions. Let it be like watchmen at the gates, refusing to let fear or despair gain entry. Let it be like a fire within the walls, keeping the cold of hopelessness from settling in. Let it be like music echoing through the corridors, reminding me that joy is possible even in uncertain hours. Let this peace become not only a shield, but also a song. As I dwell here, I realize how quickly I forget to remain inside this fortress. Too often I step back out into worry, convincing myself that I am unprotected. Yet the walls never crumble. It is only I who wander. Teach me to stay within the refuge of your presence, to return quickly when I stray, to make this fortress my permanent dwelling rather than a temporary shelter. Lord, I bring to you those I love, imagining them here with me within these walls. I ask that your peace would cover their hearts and minds, that they would feel secure even when their circumstances feel uncertain. Surround them with safety that is deeper than physical protection, safety that reaches the core of who they are. Let them know they are not alone in their struggles, for they are also welcome within this stronghold. I thank you that this fortress is not closed off from the world, but open to those who seek it. I thank you that the doorway is wide enough for every weary soul, that the invitation is extended without condition. I thank you that peace is not rationed, but abundant, not temporary, but enduring. This gratitude expands my heart, reminding me that I do not dwell here by accident, but by grace. God, let this vision of your fortress remain with me throughout the day. When my mind begins to wander into worry, remind me that I have a place to return. When my heart grows restless, remind me that I am not defenseless. When fear tries to convince me that I am unprotected, remind me of these walls built not by human hands, but by your everlasting strength. So I remain here, surrounded by peace, steady within your stronghold, grateful for the fortress that is not distant but present within me. This is where I will dwell, not as a guest, as a beloved child who belongs. Father, resting in the fortress of your peace has calmed my heart, and now I sense the next need rising within me. It is not enough to feel safe if I do not also know the way forward. I cannot remain still forever. The day stretches out before me, filled with choices both small and great. Each step matters, and I do not want to wander aimlessly. I long for the steady direction of your hand, the gentle leading of a shepherd who knows the terrain better than I ever could. Lord, I bring before you the decisions that weigh on me. Some are practical, woven into the routines of work and home. Yet even the simplest choices shape the direction of my path. Others are heavier, carrying consequences that ripple beyond myself. I admit that I often hesitate, torn between fear of making the wrong choice and impatience that pushes me ahead too quickly. I confess that I sometimes lean on my own understanding, forgetting that your wisdom is greater, forgetting that you already see the road hidden from my sight. God, when I think of you as my shepherd, I picture a staff that both guides and protects. I imagine a voice that calls me by name, leading me to places of nourishment I would never find alone. There is comfort in knowing that I do not have to force clarity by my own effort. There is rest in trusting that even if the path twists through valleys and climbs over rocky ground, you know the way. My task is not to map every mile, but to stay close to the one who leads. I remember times when I thought I had chosen poorly, only to discover later that you had turned my missteps into lessons and even blessings. I remember times when a door I longed to enter remained shut, and in disappointment I thought you had forgotten me. But in time I saw how that closed door spared me harm and pointed me toward something better. These memories remind me that guidance is not always about immediate clarity, but about faithful presence. Even when I do not understand, you are still leading. Father, I ask you to sharpen my ears to recognize your voice among the noise of competing demands. Let me not confuse loudness with truth, urgency with importance, or fear with wisdom. Teach me to pause long enough to listen. Teach me to test my thoughts against your word, to weigh my impulses against the steady rhythm of your spirit. Let discernment grow in me, not from anxiety but from trust. Lord, I place before you one choice that unsettles me most today. I name it honestly, with all its uncertainty, and I ask for clarity. Not clarity that reveals every detail, but clarity that shows me the next faithful step. Help me to walk in obedience with what I already know to be right, trusting that as I move forward, the path will open further. Give me courage not to freeze in fear of mistakes, and humility not to push ahead in stubbornness. God, I also ask for guidance not only in my decisions, but in my attitudes. Lead me to respond with kindness when provoked, with patience when delayed, with gentleness when tempted to hardness. Let my reactions themselves become a form of direction, revealing the path of Christ within me. For sometimes guidance is not a grand revelation, but the quiet shaping of my character in ordinary moments. Father, let this day be a journey walked with awareness of your presence. When I step onto familiar roads, remind me that even the routine can be holy when walked with you. When I encounter the unexpected, remind me that detours are not wasted if they are guided by your hand. When I come to a crossroads, remind me that the path of love is always the right one, even when the details remain unclear. I thank you that I am not left to wander without direction. I thank you that your Spirit whispers in ways I can learn to recognize. Through peace that steadies, through conviction that corrects, through wisdom that aligns with truth, I thank you that I am never truly lost as long as I remain near to you. So I rise from this moment with renewed confidence, not because I know every step ahead, but because I trust the one who walks before me. The path may curve, the hills may rise, but my shepherd knows the way, and that is enough for me today. Lord, as I reflect on the path you set before me, I realize that guidance is not only about direction, but also about transformation. The way is not simply a road to travel, but a workshop where my heart is shaped. You are not only the shepherd who leads, but also the potter who forms. Each step I take under your care is also a moment of being molded. Sometimes gently, sometimes with pressure that stretches me beyond comfort. And so this morning I do not only ask to be led, I ask to be shaped. Father, I admit how often I resist this process. When challenges come, my first reaction is to pray for them to end quickly rather than to consider what they might be forming in me. When correction comes, I want to defend myself rather than allow humility to grow. When patience is demanded, I prefer convenience. Yet I know that deep within, I long to become more than I am. I long to reflect the character of Christ, and that requires surrender to your hands. God, I picture myself as clay upon a wheel, spinning under the touch of the potter. There are moments when the pressure feels heavy, when the shaping feels endless. But the potter's vision is greater than the clay's discomfort. You know what I am becoming even when I do not. You press and smooth, stretch and refine, not to harm but to create. My life is not a random collection of events. It is material in your hands, being worked into something purposeful and beautiful. I remember seasons when I could not see the value what I endured. The waiting felt meaningless. The pain seemed cruel. The setbacks felt final. Yet later, I saw how strength had quietly grown in me, how compassion had deepened, how pride had softened. These were not accidental changes. They were the result of your shaping. And so now, even as I hesitate before difficulty, I choose to trust that formation is happening. Father, I ask for a teachable spirit. Let me not harden like clay left out in the sun, resistant and brittle. Keep me soft in your hands, willing to be reshaped, even when it means breaking old patterns. Let me welcome correction not as shame, but as love. Let me see discomfort not as punishment, but as invitation. Let me believe that every season of pressure carries within it the possibility of growth. Lord, I bring to you the areas of my life that most need your touch. My impatience that strains relationships, my pride that hides behind confidence, my fears that keep me from stepping forward. These are places where I cannot change myself by sheer will. They require the steady hands of the potter. They require the gentle yet firm shaping of grace. I yield them to you now, asking that you would not leave me as I am, but transform me into who I was created to be. God, This process is slow, and I confess that I often want quick results. But just as a tree grows ring by ring over many years, so too does true character develop in quiet persistence. Teach me to value the long work, the hidden work, the unseen shaping that takes place beneath the surface. Teach me to trust that even when I see no progress, your hands are steady, and the wheel is turning with purpose. I thank you for the ways you have already changed me. I thank you that I am not who I once was, that your grace has carried me forward step by step. I thank you that the very fact I desire to grow is evidence of your Spirit at work within me. And I thank you that you do not abandon the work of your hands, but carry it to completion. Father, let this day be a canvas for formation. In my conversations, teach me gentleness. In my work, teach me diligence. In my waiting, teach me patience. In my struggles, teach me endurance. And in all of it, let gratitude mark my posture. For even the hard moments are tools in your hand. So I place myself before you once again, not only to be guided but to be shaped. Press where you must, smooth where you will, and form me into a vessel that reflects your love. Father, as I yield to your shaping hands, I become aware of the areas within me that still ache, places that long not only for transformation, but for healing. The process of being formed reveals cracks and wounds I have carried, some visible to others and some hidden deep within. I realize that growth is not complete without restoration. And so I come to you now asking for healing that reaches body, mind, and spirit. Lord, I bring before you the weariness in my body. There are days when fatigue slows me, when pain makes even simple tasks heavy, when illness reminds me of my limits. I confess that I often grow frustrated with my frailty, wishing I were stronger, wishing I could push through without rest. But even here, in my weakness, you are near. I ask that your healing touch would bring renewal, not only in strength restored, but in peace to accept my humanity. Let me treat my body not with resentment, but with care, remembering it is a vessel you have given, worthy of gentleness and gratitude. God, I also bring to you the restlessness of my mind. Anxiety loops through my thoughts. Worry interrupts my sleep. Memories of failure replay without invitation. These inner storms leave me unsettled, unable to quiet myself. I need your healing here as much as in my body. Calm my thoughts with the assurance that I am held. Replace the noise of fear with the steady rhythm of your truth. Teach me to dwell not on what threatens me, but on what sustains me. Let my mind become a garden where peace grows, instead of a battlefield of constant struggle. Father, deeper still are the wounds in my spirit. There are disappointments that linger, regrets that haunt, questions that remain unanswered. There are hurts inflicted by others and hurts I have inflicted on myself. These are not easily mended by time alone. They require your touch, gentle yet powerful. Pour over these places the living water that heals what nothing else can reach. Let forgiveness flow where bitterness once lived. Let hope rise where despair once settled. Let joy return where grief has made its home. I think of healing not as a sudden erasure of pain, but as a gradual restoration, like a river smoothing rough stones over years. Some wounds may not vanish overnight, but in your presence they begin to lose their sting. Scars remain, but they tell a different story, not of brokenness, but of survival, not of abandonment, but of grace. Teach me to see them this way, as reminders of your faithfulness, rather than evidence of defeat. Lord, I ask also for the courage to participate in my healing. Give me wisdom to care for my body with rest and nourishment. Give me discipline to guard my mind with truth and gratitude. Give me humility to seek reconciliation where relationships are fractured. Healing is not only received but lived. And I want to walk in ways that welcome wholeness. God, I lift up those around me who need healing too. I think of friends and family carrying their own aches, their own invisible burdens. I ask that the waters of your mercy would flow into their lives, refreshing and restoring them. Where they feel forgotten, remind them of your nearness. Where they feel broken beyond repair, show them that nothing is beyond your touch. Where they feel hopeless, breathe new life. Let my words and actions be part of this healing, a reflection of the love that continues to restore me. Father, I thank you that healing is not only for emergencies, but for every day. Each morning offers renewal. Each prayer opens space for restoration. Each breath is a chance to begin again, even in pain. Gratitude teaches me to notice the ways you are already mending me. I see it in the small reliefs, in the unexpected encouragement, in the moments of strength I did not expect. These are reminders that healing is already at work, even when it feels unfinished. So here I stand, body weary but hopeful, mind restless but seeking calm, spirit wounded yet willing. I place it all in your care, trusting that the waters of your love flow deeper than any hurt, stronger than any fear, wider than any scar. And as I rest in this truth, gratitude rises again. For even in my weakness, healing has already begun. God, as the healing waters begin to move through the deeper places within me, I find myself arriving at a quiet, unlike any I have known before. It is not the stillness of exhaustion or silence born from giving up. It is the stillness that comes after surrender, when the striving has ceased and the heart is no longer at war with itself. It is a holy hush, settled not in circumstance, but in your presence. Here, in this gentle space, I do not feel the urgency to fix or to figure out. I only want to remain. Father, I think of all the ways I have resisted stillness before. I have filled my time with noise, filled my thoughts with tasks, filled my prayers with long lists and anxious questions. But now, after laying down my fears, my failures, and my pain, there is nothing more I need to say. There is no need to perform or explain. I am simply here with you, and that is enough. The surrender that once felt frightening now feels like release. Lord, there is a deep quiet that wraps around me like a blanket. I realize that this kind of stillness is not empty. It holds weight. It holds presence. It holds the echo of your voice. Not in thunder, but in whisper. I do not need signs or answers in this moment. I just want to sit in the comfort of knowing you are near. I imagine sitting at the edge of a still lake at dawn, its surface unbroken, its depth holding more than my eyes can see. In the same way, this quiet with you is full of unseen strength. In this stillness, I begin to hear things I often miss. I hear the quiet gratitude humming beneath my breath. I hear the slow rhythm of my heart as it settles into peace. I hear the soft pulse of hope returning, not loud or demanding, but steady and calm. I hear the sound of trust rebuilding itself where fear once stood. God, teach me not to rush from this place, even as the world around me begins to stir and demand my attention. Help me carry this stillness within me. Let it become a sanctuary I can return to again and again, not only in the early morning, but in the middle of chaotic days. Let it anchor me when the noise returns, when decisions press, when conflict rises. Remind me that I do not have to lose this peace. I can choose to return to it by choosing to return to you. Father, I ask that you would expand this stillness into every part of me. Let it reach into my thoughts, so they are not driven by urgency, but guided by wisdom. Let it reach into my reactions, so they are not sharp with fear, but gentle with grace. Let it reach into my breath, slowing me down when I want to run ahead or withdraw. Let this stillness become not only a moment, but a rhythm. Not only a pause, but a way of being. I thank you for the kind of peace that does not require everything to be right. I thank you for the kind of rest that does not depend on circumstances settling perfectly. This is a stillness born from being held, not from having control. It comes not from knowing the future, but from knowing you are already in it. And so I settle here, not in weakness, but in trust. God, I lift up those who are still wrestling within themselves, those who feel too restless to rest, too overwhelmed to be still. I ask that you would draw them gently to this same quiet you have offered me. Meet them not with demands, but with presence. Quiet the storm around them by first quieting the storm within them. Let them discover that stillness is not something earned, but something received. As I sit in this moment with you, I feel no rush to move on. There is nothing more I need to accomplish here, no problem to solve, no prayer to perfect, just a holy silence between us. And in that silence, I feel known, I feel safe, I feel whole. Not because everything has been resolved, but because nothing can separate me from you. So I breathe deeply in this space, holding no agenda, making no demand. I rest like a child who trusts the one holding them, like a leaf that drifts gently on still water. Carried by something greater, I know the day will require energy, thought, and effort, but for now, I am content just to be here, quietly with you, where nothing is missing. Father, as I remain in the stillness that follows surrender, I begin to sense a new kind of strength forming inside me. It is not loud or forceful. It does not come from ambition or determination. It rises quietly, like warmth from a steady fire. It does not demand attention, yet it holds steady when everything else begins to shake. This is not the strength I have known from the world. It is the strength of grace, and it is this grace, flowing gently and persistently, that will carry me through today. Lord, I used to think strength meant holding everything together. I believed it looked like constant motion, unbreakable confidence, always having the right words or the right answer. But grace teaches me something different. Grace is not about pretending to be strong. It is about letting you be strong through me. It is about allowing weakness to become a doorway, not a wall. It is about standing not because I am powerful, but because I am held. God, as I begin this day, I ask you to fill me with this gentle strength, not a sharp edge that cuts others, but a steady light that guides, not a clenched jaw or a tight fist, but an open posture, a calm heart, a spirit rooted in trust. Let grace be the way I move through the world, grace for myself when I fall short, grace for others when they do, and grace to begin again when things do not unfold as I hoped. I think of all the places where I need this strength today, in conversations that might stretch me, in decisions that require wisdom, in moments when irritation or fatigue might rise. I ask you to go before me and build within me a well of patience, a current of compassion, and a tone of kindness that does not waver. Grace is not passive, it is active, yet gentle. It responds, but never attacks. It leads, but never dominates. And that is the strength I long to carry. Father, I remember how Jesus moved through the world firm in truth, yet tender in presence. He did not crush the bruised or extinguish the dim flame. Instead, he touched the hurting with dignity. He saw the hidden with compassion. He faced conflict with peace. I want to live that way. Not rushing, not proving, but trusting that grace is enough. Even when I am misunderstood, even when I am interrupted, even when I am not celebrated, let that grace become my first instinct, not my last resort. Let it shape the way I speak, so that my words heal and not harm. Let it shape the way I listen, so that I hear the heart behind the words. Let it shape the way I walk into every room, not needing to be noticed, but ready to notice others. God, I confess that some days I run dry. I give what I can, but then I become short, defensive, or closed off. Grace reminds me that I was never meant to pour from emptiness. Grace invites me to receive before I give, to return to the source before I try to become one. So here I am again, letting you fill me not with performance, but with peace, not with pressure, with purpose. I thank you that your grace is not limited. It does not diminish when I return to it again and again. It flows freely, fresh each morning, faithful each moment. It does not wait for me to be worthy. It meets me in my need and lifts me gently into strength. I carry that truth with me today, letting it soften my fears and settle my spirit. Father, I also lift up those who may cross my path today. The ones who are tired, the ones who are grieving, the ones who speak harshly out of pain they do not know how to name. Let my presence be a quiet extension of your grace. Let me listen more than I speak, offer more than I expect, and stay grounded even when others are shaken. Let me be a safe place, because I have spent time in yours. So I step into this day not with force, but with fullness. I do not need to impress or defend or outrun anything. I am carried by grace, shaped by grace, and called to walk in grace. That is enough. That is strength. That is the power that cannot be shaken, because it does not depend on me. Lord, as I sit in this quiet moment, the echoes of yesterday's release still linger within me. Letting go was not easy. There were moments when my heart clung tightly to the familiar afraid that emptiness might be all that waited on the other side. But now, in this silence that follows surrender, I feel the subtle stirrings of something new, a soft breath, a gentle pulse, a whisper of rebuilding. You never rush, Lord. You never demand that I be whole overnight. Instead, you invite me, piece by piece, to allow your hands to shape me anew, not by covering over the broken places, not by ignoring the cracks, but by beginning right there in the rubble of what was. It humbles me to realize you do not despise my ruins. You treasure them, and in your mercy, you begin to build something more honest than I ever dared imagine. Today, I do not ask to be strong in the way I once understood strength. I ask to be real. I ask to be willing. I ask for eyes that see growth not as a race to perfection, but as the miracle of sprouting again after seasons of cold. Because I am learning that healing is not about erasing what hurt, but about holding it in the light until it loosens its grip. It is not about becoming who I was before the fall, but about becoming who I was meant to be all along, even through the fall. God, I feel you in the slow, quiet work you are doing within me. You do not tear down recklessly, but gently remove what no longer belongs. You do not rebuild with noise or pressure, but with the careful grace of one who knows the contours of my soul. You know where the weak beams are, and you strengthen them. You know where I have patched myself with pretense, and you replace it with truth. You know where I have sealed off rooms in fear, and you open them with light. Teach me to stay in this process, Lord, to remain when it gets uncomfortable, to trust when progress is invisible, to believe that even in days that feel stagnant, something sacred is shifting beneath the surface. I do not want to rush past this stage, tempted by ease or appearances. I want to let the roots go deep, so when storms come, and they always do, I am not shaken by the winds. And so I come to you again, raw and real, without polish. I offer the bits of myself I have tried to hide, the tired parts, the cynical parts, the discouraged parts. I place them at your feet not because they are good, but because they are mine, and I trust you to make something holy of them. God, how many times have I tried to rebuild by my own blueprint? How many times have I measured worth by accomplishment, healing by outward calm, peace by absence of conflict? But you, Lord, you measure differently. You look deeper. You celebrate when I dare to begin again, even if the beginning is shaky. You rejoice when I reach for you, even if my hands still tremble from yesterday's pain. In this rebuilding, you invite me to shift my foundation from fear to trust, from striving to surrender, from shame to love. And you do not ask me to do it all today. You simply ask me to take the next step, to lay one stone at a time. Perhaps that step is forgiveness. Perhaps it is rest. Perhaps it is speaking a truth I have long buried. Whatever it is, Lord, help me to take it. Not perfectly, but honestly. I confess, there are still ruins I resist letting you touch, corners of my soul where the pain is layered deep. But you are patient. You wait until I am ready. And even as you wait, you love me fully, not because I am rebuilt, but because I am yours, God. I know now that rebuilding does not always look like restoration to what once was. Sometimes it is the creation of something entirely new. A new heart, a new rhythm, a new courage. And it might not be visible to others. It might not be loud, but it is real. And it is mine, because it is yours first. I thank you for the small signs that show me I am not alone in this work. A friend's understanding word. A moment of laughter I thought had long since left me. The way the morning light hits the wall just right, and something inside me softens. These are the bricks, the beams, the scaffolding of my becoming, and I choose, again today, to notice them. Lord, help me release the timelines I have set for myself, the silent deadlines I have placed on my own progress. Help me to lean into grace, the kind that does not scold me for not being further along, but simply whispers, "You are still on the way." Help me to honor each phase of this becoming. Knowing you are present in them all, there is no shame in rebuilding, no failure in having to begin again, only the courage to trust that beauty can rise even from ashes. Only the humility to say, "This hurts, but I believe." Only the faith to know that healing is not linear, and that some days the most sacred work is simply not giving up. So I breathe in now, Lord, and feel your nearness not as pressure to perform, but as presence that surrounds. I choose to build slowly, from the inside out, knowing that what lasts is never hurried, and when the doubts come as I will return to this stillness, to this knowing, to this place where you and I meet in the raw dust and rising hope. Let this be enough for today. The willingness to begin again, the quiet strength to hold space for what is still being formed. The joy of knowing that no matter how long the work takes, you are not leaving the site. Even now, I feel the foundation settling beneath me, not of stone or brick, but of trust, of faith shaped through fire, of peace that does not depend on the absence of struggle, but on the presence of you. And in this peace, I sit a little taller. I breathe a little deeper. I believe a little more, because though the work is not finished, the builder is faithful, and that is enough to keep going. Father, rebuilding from the inside out has opened new rooms in me, but it has also left me standing in places that feel unbearably quiet. I thought that as I surrendered more, I would hear you more clearly, that every prayer would be met with swift assurance. Yet there are mornings when my words rise and seem to vanish into still air. There are nights when my questions echo back unanswered. In these moments, I struggle because silence feels like absence, and absence feels like abandonment. But deep down, I know that is not true. Your silence is not rejection, it is mystery, and I am invited to trust you even there. Lord, I bring you my restlessness, the part of me that aches for clear answers, the part that begs for signs, the part that longs for certainty before I take the next step. I confess that I want you to speak on my terms, in my timing, in ways that erase all doubt. Yet I remember that you are not bound to my demands. You speak in ways that shape me, not simply satisfy me. Sometimes you guide with clarity, and sometimes with quiet. Both are love, though one is harder to receive. God, in this silence, I begin to learn that trust is not proven in moments of abundance, but in moments of uncertainty, It is easy to believe when the path is lit, when the answer is obvious. It is harder to believe when shadows stretch across the way. Yet here is where faith grows. Here is where roots sink deeper. Here is where I must lean not on feelings, but on what I know to be true, that you are present even when I cannot sense you, that you are working even when I cannot see. Father, help me not to confuse silence with distance. Remind me of the countless ways you have been near before, how you answered in unexpected timing, how you carried me when I thought I was alone, how you turned delays into blessings I could not have planned. Silence then was not abandonment, and it is not now. It is the quiet classroom where trust is taught. The pause between notes that makes the music whole. Lord, in these quiet stretches, I ask for patience. Patience to sit without rushing. Patience to wait without demanding. Patience to keep praying even when the heavens seem still. Let me find peace not in answers, but in your unchanging character. Let me rest in the knowledge that silence is often the canvas where you paint something greater than I expect. I think of a seed buried deep in the soil, unseen, unmoving, unnoticed. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But within, life is stirring, roots are forming, growth is preparing. So too, in these silent seasons, something unseen is happening in me. It may feel like waiting without progress, but it is growth hidden from view. Teach me to trust that silence does not mean stagnation, but preparation. God, when silence feels heavy, remind me of the gift it carries. It teaches me to listen more deeply, not only to external voices, but to the still, small whisper within. It invites me to notice what I have overlooked, to pay attention to what truly matters, to let go of the need for constant affirmation. Silence strips away the unnecessary until only faith remains. And that faith, fragile though it feels, is enough to keep me standing. Father, I pray for those who are also walking through your silence. Those who wait for healing, for provision, for reconciliation, and hear no immediate reply. Strengthen them as you strengthen me. Remind them that unanswered prayers are not ignored prayers. Remind them that silence is often a prelude to revelation. Hold them steady until the moment when light breaks through again. I thank you that even when I cannot hear you, you hear me. I thank you that my words are never lost, that my sighs and tears are recorded, that my longing itself is seen as prayer. I thank you that silence, though uncomfortable, is sacred ground where I can discover a love that does not depend on constant reassurance. So I choose to sit here, not rushing away from the quiet. I choose to trust that you are near, even if I cannot feel it. I choose to believe that your silence is not emptiness, but depth, not absence, but presence in a different form. And as I stay here, something shifts. The silence no longer feels like a void, it feels like an embrace. Father, after walking through the quiet weight of your silence, I sense you nudging me toward memory. Silence does not erase the truth of who you are, and remembering anchors me when answers feel far away. My heart is fragile in uncertainty, but memory is a bridge that carries me across the gap between what I feel and what I know. When the present feels hollow, the past becomes a testimony that whispers, "You have seen God's hand before, and you will see it again." Lord, I recall moments when I thought I would not make it through, days when loss consumed me, nights when fear refused to let me rest, seasons when the future felt impossibly heavy. And yet, even then, I was not undone. Somehow strength came. Somehow light pierced the shadows. Somehow peace, though fragile, returned. Looking back, I see that it was never coincidence. It was always you quietly steadying, gently guiding, faithfully carrying God. I remember the doors that closed with disappointment, but later revealed themselves as protection. I remember the unexpected provision that arrived when I had nothing left. I remember words of encouragement spoken at the exact moment I needed them, and delivered through voices that had no idea how much weight they carried. These memories are not just stories. They are monuments of grace. They remind me that my life is not random, but held in a larger story of faithfulness. Father, I confess that I often forget. I let today's anxieties eclipse yesterday's miracles. I let fear silence the testimony of all you have already done. I let doubt erase gratitude. Teach me to hold memory close, to rehearse it often, to let it become a shield against despair. Let remembering be a discipline, not just a fleeting thought. Let it shape the way I pray, the way I wait, the way I trust. Lord, I think of how memory itself is a gift. It allows me to gather fragments of my journey and piece them into a picture of your presence. Even when I did not recognize you at the time, hindsight reveals traces of your hand. And as I remember, I realize that faith is not built only on present feelings but on cumulative evidence. My story holds proof enough to keep trusting, even when silence lingers. God, let remembering not only strengthen me but also soften me. Let it make me more compassionate toward those who doubt, more patient with those who wait, more hopeful for those who struggle to see your hand. When I share my memories of your faithfulness, may they become encouragement for others. May my life tell them that silence is not the end of the story, that waiting is not wasted, that faith can survive the dark. Father, I also remember the cross, where love spoke louder than suffering, where silence on one Friday gave way to resurrection on Sunday. That memory is not distant history. It is present reality. It tells me that even when it seems like hope has died, life can rise again. It tells me that even when silence feels final, a new word will come. It tells me that my story is bound to a greater story, one that ends not in despair, but in redemption. Lord, thank you for the way remembering changes me. It turns my focus from what I lack to what I have received. It shifts my posture from complaint to gratitude. It stirs up courage for tomorrow, because I have seen evidence of your presence yesterday. And it humbles me, reminding me that I did not make it here by my own strength, but by your unending mercy. So today, I choose to remember. I remember the times you lifted me when I stumbled. I remember the whispers of comfort in the middle of grief. I remember the peace that arrived without explanation. I remember the love that refused to let me go, and as I remember, I breathe easier, because memory itself becomes prayer, a prayer that does not demand but declares, a prayer that does not question but affirms. And so I carry these memories with me into the day ahead, not as nostalgia but as nourishment. They are proof that you have always been near. They are assurance that you will not leave me now, and they are hope that tomorrow will hold its own evidence of grace. Father, as I linger in the power of remembering, I notice how those memories do more than steady me. They awaken awe. Gratitude for the past stirs a renewed sense of wonder in the present. I realize that faith is not meant to be a dull endurance, but a living flame that keeps me alert to beauty, mystery, and joy. Somewhere along the way, I let heaviness overshadow wonder. Yet you remind me that wonder is not reserved for extraordinary moments. It is waiting quietly in the ordinary, ready to be rediscovered. Lord, I confess how easily I have overlooked wonder. The rush of responsibilities makes me forget the miracle of waking up to a new day. The weight of problems dulls my eyes to small beauties around me. I treat the rising sun as routine, the laughter of a child as background noise, the kindness of a stranger as coincidence. But when I pause, when I truly look, I see that each of these moments carries holy significance. Wonder returns when I choose to notice. God, I ask that you restore in me a heart that marvels again. Let me see creation not as backdrop, but as testimony. The sky that shifts its colors, the rhythm of waves upon the shore, the quiet resilience of a flower pushing through cracks in stone, all of these whisper of you. Teach me to see not just with my eyes, but with my soul, so that I do not reduce life to mere survival, but embrace it as gift. I remember how, as a child, I once carried wonder easily. Every discovery felt like treasure. Every day carried possibility. That innocence faded as I grew, but I sense you inviting me back not into childishness, but into childlikeness. To look at the world with curiosity, to approach life with open hands, to believe that goodness can surprise me. Father, let that spirit rise again in me, for wonder is the seedbed of hope. Lord, I want wonder to reshape how I see others. Too often I reduce people to roles, to opinions, to flaws, but each person carries mystery. Each life holds stories known fully only by you. Let me marvel at the uniqueness of those around me, seeing them not as interruptions, but as reflections of your image. Let wonder make me slower to judge and quicker to love. God, wonder also opens me to joy. It lifts me from cynicism and softens me when bitterness tries to take root. It reminds me that even in dark times, beauty persists, that even in silence, meaning lingers, that even in suffering, grace leaves traces. Wonder tells me that despair does not have the final word, and in that truth, joy quietly returns. Father, let wonder accompany me into the simple rhythms of today, in the taste of water when I am thirsty, in the melody of birdsong carried on morning air, in the warmth of light spilling across the floor, in the embrace of someone who cares. These are not small things. They are reminders of abundance. Teach me to name them, to receive them with reverence, to let them expand my heart instead of slipping past unnoticed. I thank you for the way wonder draws me closer to worship. For worship is not only words I speak, but the posture of amazement that rises when I glimpse your hand at work. It is the way my breath catches when I see beauty I cannot explain. It is the quiet awe when I realize that life itself is sustained moment by your love. Let wonder and worship intertwine in me until they become inseparable. Lord, I pray for those who feel numb, who cannot see beauty because pain has clouded their vision. I ask that you gently restore wonder to them as well. Send small signs, quiet mercies, glimpses of light that remind them life is still precious. Let their hearts, once dulled by sorrow, come alive again with curiosity and gratitude. So here I stand in the returning light of wonder. My eyes are open wider, my heart feels softer, my spirit lighter. I see not only what is before me, but the God who is within it. And as wonder returns, hope rises too, carrying me forward with joy. Father, as wonder awakens within me again, I realize how often pain tries to smother it. Wounds that linger in memory, disappointments that cling like shadows, regrets that echo in the silence of night, they all pull at me, keeping me tethered to what was, even as I see beauty and taste joy. There are hurts that whisper, reminding me of sorrow. I feel the weight of carrying them, and I know that to step into freedom, I must let them go. Yet letting go is never simple, and so I bring them to you with trembling honesty. Lord, you know every wound I hide, the words spoken in anger that cut deeper than anyone realized, the betrayals that shook my trust, the dreams that collapsed before they could take shape, the guilt that lingers from mistakes I wish I could undo. You have seen them all, and you have wept with me in those moments. Still, I have gripped them tightly, as though replaying them could somehow change their power. But the truth is, holding on only keeps me bound. My fists stay clenched when you are inviting me to open my hands. God, I ask for the courage to release what I cannot carry anymore. Show me that letting go does not mean denying the pain or pretending it never mattered. It means entrusting it to you, allowing your love to touch the raw places, allowing your wisdom to write new chapters where I saw only endings. Teach me that surrender is not weakness, but the beginning of healing. When I loosen my grip, I create space for grace. Father, sometimes I fear that if I let go, I will lose a part of myself. The hurt feels intertwined with my identity, as if I would not know who I am without it. Yet you remind me that I am not defined by scars, but by the one who heals them. I am more than the wounds I have carried. I am the beloved child of a God who makes all things new. Let that truth become louder than the lies of pain. Lord, I confess that forgiveness is part of this letting go, and forgiveness is hard. To release resentment feels impossible when the memory is fresh, when the loss was real. Yet forgiveness does not erase justice, and it does not excuse what was wrong. It frees my heart from bitterness. It places the burden into your hands, where judgment is perfect and mercy abundant. Help me forgive not because the past deserves it, but because my soul needs it. God, I also need to forgive myself. How often I replay failures, speaking words of condemnation over my own life. I hold myself hostage to perfection, refusing to accept that mistakes can be teachers, that flaws can be redeemed. I forget that you have already spoken grace over me, and that nothing I confess is beyond your embrace. Teach me to extend to myself the same mercy you so freely give. Father, as I release these hurts, I feel both resistance and relief. Resistance, because the pain is familiar, and letting go feels like stepping into the unknown. Relief, because I sense the lightness of burdens lifting, the chains beginning to fall. In their place, there is room for peace to grow, for hope to breathe, for joy to rise. What I thought would define me forever becomes soil for new life. Lord, I ask that you continue to guide me in this practice of release. Each day, help me lay down what I am tempted to carry again. Each moment, remind me that surrender is not a single act, but a rhythm, a choice repeated until it becomes part of who I am. And in that rhythm, may I find freedom deeper than I imagined. Freedom born not of my strength, but of yours. God, as I let go, I want to hold on to something greater, your promises. That you will never leave me. That you will work all things for good. That even what was meant for harm can be transformed into blessing. These truths anchor me as I unclench my fists. They remind me that letting go is not loss but gain. Not emptiness, but fullness. So here, in the quiet of this morning, I place my hurts into your hands. I trust that you can carry what I cannot. I believe that healing is possible, that scars can tell stories of grace, that pain can be turned into purpose. My heart feels lighter, my spirit steadier, my future brighter. And as I step forward, I do so with hands open wide, ready not to clutch what wounds, but to receive what heals. Father, having placed my hurts into your hands, I notice the quiet that follows. The silence is not empty, but befilled with possibility. Feels like standing at the edge of a river after finally unclenching what I carried for too long. I sense the current moving, inviting me to step forward, reminding me that letting go is not the end of a story, the beginning of a gentler rhythm. There is a peace that rises when the weight falls, and though it feels fragile, I know it is the seed of strength. Lord, I confess that part of me still looks back. The temptation to return to old pain is strong. My mind revisits memories, wanting to trace them again as though they could yield new answers. But every time I look back, I feel the heaviness returning. So teach me to set my gaze forward. Let my heart be trained to dwell not on wounds, but on what you are unfolding ahead. Give me patience when healing feels slow. An assurance that progress is not measured by how fast I forget, by how faithfully I keep releasing. God, there are moments when letting go feels like losing control, and that frightens me. I want to manage outcomes, to guard myself from more disappointment, to shield myself from further hurt. Yet the truth is, control was never mine to begin with. Life is fragile, unpredictable, beyond my grasp. Only in you is there steady ground. Only in you is there safety for my soul. So help me not to clutch at illusions of control, but to trust in the one who holds all things. Father, I see now that letting go is also about creating space. Space for joy to return where sorrow had lived. Space for laughter where bitterness once settled. Space for hope to take root where fear had consumed me. when my hands are no longer gripping the past. They are free to receive what you place before me. I want to live with open palms, ready to welcome grace in whatever form it comes. Lord, I ask for wisdom in this ongoing release. Some hurts are loud, demanding attention, while others hide quietly, shaping my thoughts without my awareness. Reveal the hidden places where pain still lingers. Shine light on the corners of my heart I have ignored. Teach me to notice when resentment sneaks back in, when shame whispers, when fear tightens its hold. And in those moments, remind me again to surrender. God, as I continue to let go, I discover resilience rising where I thought only weakness remained. Resilience is not the absence of pain, but the strength to move through it without being defined by it. It is the courage to stand again, to hope again, to love again even when love once led to loss. This resilience does not come from me, but from you, the steady source of life who renews me each day. Father, I thank you that letting go does not erase the past, but transforms its meaning. What once felt like only ruin can become testimony. Scars that once shamed me can speak of survival, of mercy, of lessons that shaped me into who I am today. What was broken can become the place where your light shines brightest. I ask you to continue this work of redemption in me, until even the deepest wound carries the mark of grace. Lord, as I walk this path of release, help me extend it outward too. Let me not only let go of my own pain, but also release others from the grip of my judgment. When I am tempted to cling to grudges, remind me that bitterness is a chain that binds me more than anyone else. When I want to hold others captive to their mistakes, remind me how often you have freed me. Let me live as one who forgives quickly, who loves generously, who trusts that your justice is wiser than mine. God, I see now that letting go is not a single act, but a continual posture. Each morning, I must choose it again. Each evening, I must entrust what I cannot carry into your keeping. And each time I do, I find that my heart grows lighter, my soul steadier, my steps freer. This rhythm of release becomes a song of trust, echoing through my days, reminding me that I am never abandoned in the process. So here in the stillness, I breathe deeply and allow myself to rest in this truth. I do not need to hold everything. I do not need to control what has been or fear what will come. My task is simply to open my hands, to unclench my heart, to let go again and again until freedom becomes the air I breathe. And in that freedom, I find you waiting, ready to fill the space with peace, with strength, with love beyond measure. Father, as I release what once weighed me down, I sense the emptiness left behind. Yet it is not a hollow emptiness that frightens me. It is a sacred space, an open ground waiting to be renewed. Where pain once resided, there is now room for growth. Where bitterness took root, there is now fertile soil for grace. I feel you inviting me to rebuild, not from the fragile surface of appearances, but from the deep foundations of the heart where true transformation begins. Lord, I know how easy it is to focus on fixing the outer life tasks completed, roles fulfilled, expectations met. Yet if the soul remains fractured, no accomplishment can quiet the unrest within. So I ask you to help me rebuild from the inside out. Teach me to lay foundations of peace where fear once ruled. Teach me to set stones of kindness where anger tried to dwell. Let every hidden part of me be restored by your hand, so that the life others see is not a facade, but a reflection of wholeness. God, I confess that rebuilding feels daunting. The ruins of disappointment sometimes seem too overwhelming to clear. But you remind me that I do not rebuild alone. You are the architect, the healer, the steady presence who guides every step. What looks broken beyond repair becomes the very canvas where your mercy paints new design. You turn rubble into strength, ashes into beauty, weakness into testimony. With you, even the ruins can sing. Father, as I begin this work, I pray for patience. Transformation is not immediate. It unfolds like dawn. First faint, then steady, then full. Help me not to despise small beginnings or lose hope when change feels slow. Remind me that every act of surrender, every choice of love, every moment of trust lays another stone in the foundation of a life restored. Lord, I ask for courage to face what still lies within me. There are corners of fear, habits of doubt, patterns that keep me from rising fully into who you created me to be. Do not let me ignore them. Shine light on them with gentleness. Not to condemn, but to heal. Show me how to let go of what no longer serves me and embrace what draws me nearer to you. God, as you rebuild me, let resilience grow strong. Not the brittle resilience of pretending to be fine, but the deep resilience that comes from being anchored in truth. Let my strength be quiet but sure, flexible yet firm, able to bend with the storms without breaking. Plant hope in me that cannot be uprooted, joy that cannot be stolen, peace that cannot be shaken. Father, rebuilding is not only about what rises within me, but also about what flows outward. Teach me to rebuild relationships with humility, to mend with grace where words have wounded, to restore trust where it has been broken. Help me live not as a solitary fortress, but as a dwelling open to love, a space where others can glimpse your presence through my life. Lord, I thank you that in rebuilding, I am not being remade into someone unrecognizable, but into the truest version of myself, the self you envisioned before fear, pain, and sin distorted the view. In your hands, I am not discarded but restored. In your eyes, I am not ruined but beloved. Let this truth become the cornerstone upon which everything else is built. God, I pray that each day I live becomes part of this rebuilding. In the choices I make, in the words I speak, in the way I listen, in the way I love, let restoration shape me. Let me no longer be driven by what I lost, but inspired by what you are creating. And when discouragement whispers that the work is too much, remind me that you who began a good work in me will carry it to completion. So I stand here in this holy construction site of the soul, with walls yet unfinished but foundations secure. The ruins are behind me, the scaffolding of hope surrounds me, and the blueprint of your love guides me. I may not see the full picture yet, but I trust the builder, and in that trust, I find peace as the work continues from the inside out. Father, as the rebuilding within me continues, I cannot ignore the seasons when silence surrounds me. There are times when I call out and the sky feels heavy, when prayers rise yet no answer seems to descend, when waiting stretches longer than I imagined it could. In those moments, doubt begins to stir. I wonder if my words vanish into emptiness, if perhaps I am unseen, unheard, forgotten. Yet even here, in the stillness, I sense the invitation to trust more deeply than before. Lord, I admit that silence unsettles me. I long for clear signs. Immediate reassurance. The comfort of knowing exactly where you are leading. But often your voice is not thunder or flame, but a whisper hidden within quietness. The waiting tests me, stretching my faith beyond the familiar. Still, I remember that silence is not absence. Just as the roots of a tree grow unseen beneath the soil, so does your work continue even when I cannot perceive it. God, teach me to rest in this hidden work. Help me believe that silence itself can be sacred, that what feels like delay may actually be preparation. Let me trust that in the silence, you are arranging what I cannot see, healing what I do not notice, strengthening me in ways I will only understand later. Keep me from mistaking your stillness for neglect. Remind me that love remains constant even when words are withheld. Father, I think of the night sky, vast and unspoken, yet filled with light from stars long past. Even in silence, creation declares your presence. If I open my heart, I can sense you in the hush between breaths, in the pause between moments, in the gentle steadiness of life unfolding. Let me not fear silence, but learn to lean into it, to hear the subtle music it carries. Lord, I confess that silence reveals my impatience. I want answers quickly, solutions immediately, clarity without waiting. But faith matures in the soil of patience. Hope deepens when it is stretched. Love proves itself when it endures without constant affirmation. Help me welcome the discipline of waiting, trusting that silence is not wasted, but shaping me into someone steadier, humbler, more anchored. God, in these quiet spaces, help me to listen more than I speak. Let silence teach me to notice the whispers of my own heart, the stirrings of compassion for others, the nudges of conscience calling me toward growth. Sometimes your voice is not absent, it is simply drowned out by my own noise. Train me to quiet myself enough to hear what has been there all along. Father, I also realize that silence invites me to trust relationship more than reassurance. A child does not need constant words from a parent to know they are loved. The bond itself is enough. So let me rest in the bond we share, knowing that even when you do not speak, your presence is with me. Even when I cannot trace your hand, I can trust your heart. Lord, I pray for the strength to stay faithful in the silence, to keep showing up in prayer, even when feelings waver, to keep believing in your promises, even when evidence seems scarce, to keep loving others, even when I feel empty. Let this quiet perseverance become worship in its purest form, trust without demand, love without condition, hope without sight. God, I think of how the dawn often breaks after the darkest stretch of night. Silence may last for a time, but it is not forever. Answers will come, clarity will emerge, and when it does, I will look back and see how silence shaped me, It carved out space for deeper faith, for greater resilience, for trust that does not depend on circumstance. I will see that you were never gone, but closer than I imagined, teaching me through the stillness. So here I am, choosing to stay in the silence without fear. My heart is learning to rest, my spirit is learning to listen, and my soul is learning to trust. What once felt like emptiness now feels like invitation. And though the silence lingers, it carries within it a quiet assurance. I am not alone. For even in the stillest hour, you are here. Father, as the rebuilding within me continues, I cannot ignore the seasons when silence surrounds me. There are times when I call out and the sky feels heavy, when prayers rise yet no answer seems to descend, when waiting stretches longer than I imagined it could. In those moments, doubt begins to stir. I wonder if my words vanish into emptiness, if perhaps I am unseen, unheard, forgotten. Yet even here, in the stillness, I sense the invitation to trust more deeply than before. Lord, I admit that silence unsettles me. I long for clear signs. Immediate reassurance. The comfort of knowing exactly where you are leading. But often your voice is not thunder or flame, but a whisper hidden within quietness. The waiting tests me, stretching my faith beyond the familiar. Still, I remember that silence is not absence. Just as the roots of a tree grow unseen beneath the soil, so does your work continue even when I cannot perceive it. God, teach me to rest in this hidden work. Help me believe that silence itself can be sacred, that what feels like delay may actually be preparation. Let me trust that in the silence, you are arranging what I cannot see, healing what I do not notice, strengthening me in ways I will only understand later. Keep me from mistaking your stillness for neglect. Remind me that love remains constant even when words are withheld. Father, I think of the night sky, vast and unspoken, yet filled with light from stars long past. Even in silence, creation declares your presence. If I open my heart, I can sense you in the hush between breaths, in the pause between moments, in the gentle steadiness of life unfolding. Let me not fear silence, but learn to lean into it, to hear the subtle music it carries. Lord, I confess that silence reveals my impatience. I want answers quickly, solutions immediately, clarity without waiting. But faith matures in the soil of patience. Hope deepens when it is stretched. Love proves itself when it endures without constant affirmation. Help me welcome the discipline of waiting, trusting that silence is not wasted, but shaping me into someone steadier, humbler, more anchored. God, in these quiet spaces, help me to listen more than I speak. Let silence teach me to notice the whispers of my own heart, the stirrings of compassion for others, the nudges of conscience calling me toward growth. Sometimes your voice is not absent, it is simply drowned out by my own noise. Train me to quiet myself enough to hear what has been there all along. Father, I also realize that silence invites me to trust relationship more than reassurance. A child does not need constant words from a parent to know they are loved. The bond itself is enough, so let me rest in the bond we share, knowing that even when you do not speak, your presence is with me, even when I cannot trace your hand. I can trust your heart. Lord, I pray for the strength to stay faithful in the silence, to keep showing up in prayer, even when feelings waver, to keep believing in your promises, even when evidence seems scarce, to keep loving others, even when I feel empty. Let this quiet perseverance become worship in its purest form: trust without demand, love without condition, hope without sight. God, I think of how the dawn often breaks after the darkest stretch of night. Silence may last for a time, but it is not forever. Answers will come, clarity will emerge, and when it does, I will look back and see how silence shaped me. It carved out space for deeper faith, for greater resilience, for trust that does not depend on circumstance. I will see that you were never gone, but closer than I imagined, teaching me through the stillness. So here I am, choosing to stay in the silence without fear. My heart is learning to rest, my spirit is learning to listen, and my soul is learning to trust. What once felt like emptiness now feels like invitation. And though the silence lingers, it carries within it a quiet assurance. I am not alone. For even in the stillest hour, you are here. Father, as I sit in the silence that once felt unbearable, I begin to realize how memory carries me through it. Though words may not come from heaven in this moment, I am not left empty-handed, for you have already filled my past with reminders of your faithfulness. When I look back, I see that every valley I walked through did not consume me, and every night of sorrow eventually gave way to morning. Remembering these truths becomes an anchor in the quiet, steadying me when doubt tries to rise. Lord, I call to mind the moments when I thought I could not endure, and yet I did. The nights of fear that felt endless. The burdens I believed would crush me. The prayers I thought had gone unanswered, all of them stand now as monuments of grace. For though the outcomes were not always what I expected, I see how you carried me. I see how strength appeared when I had none, how doors opened when I had no way forward, how peace arrived when anxiety had me in its grip. To remember is to breathe hope again. God, I thank you that memory is not only about pain, but about provision. I recall the times joy surprised me in the smallest places. Laughter breaking into sorrow, kindness showing up when I least expected, beauty lifting my eyes when despair had lowered them. Each memory whispers that you were there, even when I doubted, even when I resisted, even when I wandered far. You never abandoned me. These recollections remind me that silence is not abandonment, but invitation to trust what has already been proven. Father, memory shapes how I see the present, instead of measuring today only by its struggles. I learn to weigh it against the story of your faithfulness. If you were with me then, you are surely with me now. If you brought me through before, you will not leave me in this moment. Remembering reframes fear. Turning it into confidence, it transforms despair into endurance. It takes what feels uncertain and steadies it with evidence of love that has never failed. Lord, I ask that you help me remember rightly. Sometimes I focus too much on wounds. Rehearsing failures, replaying words that hurt me, but you invite me to remember with gratitude, to let memory be a stream of hope rather than a pit of regret. Train my mind to return not to shame but to grace, not to bitterness but to mercy. not to what was lost, but to what was gained in you. Teach me to treasure memory as testimony, carrying it as fuel for faith instead of chains of despair. God, I think of how your people throughout history built altars of remembrance, stones set in place to mark where rivers parted, where victories were won, where promises were kept. These were not just monuments of the past, but declarations for the future. In the same way, I set altars in my heart, marking the moments where I saw your hand, where I felt your nearness, where I knew without doubt that I was held. These altars remind me that if you were faithful then, you will be faithful now. Father, when silence tempts me to question, help me recall not only my own story, but the stories of others, the lives of those who endured trials and yet stood strong, the voices of those who sang in prison cells, who prayed in wilderness places, who clung to hope when all seemed lost. Their memories strengthen mine, reminding me that faith has always thrived not in constant certainty, but in trust that remembers even when it cannot see. Lord, I pray for a memory that becomes more than nostalgia. Let it not trap me in the past, but propel me forward. Let it remind me that what was once impossible became reality, and that the same hand who moved then is moving still. Let remembering stir resilience. Awaken gratitude, and anchor hope so that I face today not with fear, but with quiet confidence. God, I thank you that remembering you is not just recalling events, but dwelling in presence. Each memory carries not only the mark of circumstance, but the trace of your love. To remember is to encounter you again, to feel once more the warmth of mercy, the depth of grace, the steadiness of peace. Memory becomes a doorway through which I step back into communion, finding you near once more. So here I remain, in the silence that once threatened to undo me. Now surrounded by the voices of memory, they speak of storms survived, of nights endured, of mercies renewed each morning. They remind me that silence is not emptiness, but sacred space where remembering sustains me. And as I recall all that you have done, I find new strength rising, new courage forming, and new hope awakening.